Yes, we'll start our session today by paying our obeisances to His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we are in our journey for chapter 7, and which makes us enter into the Bhakti Yoga section of Bhagavad-Gita. Right? Now, we covered so far the part 1 section of Bhagavad-Gita, which is the starting 6 chapters, which falls under the umbrella of Karma Yoga. Yeah? And we have wrapped up all these, and it's been I think journey in itself, right? So now we are stepping into, I think, the cream of Bhagavad-Gita, and why I say it, because it really, at the end of 12th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, from 7 to 12, we really, I think, we understand why Bhakti is so beautiful, and why Krishna is so beautiful and how merciful he is. And I hope you all will enjoy these sections as much as I did when I learned it. These were my favorites. So we'll start, today we will be covering, or maybe I can start with this part 2 of Bhakti Yoga. If you all remember, we had compared in the introduction session for the overall Bhagavad Gita as a jewelry box, right? The top of the jewelry box is the last 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, which is falling with Jnana Yoga section. The bottom of the box, is the Karma Yoga, which we have finished. The first 6 chapters. And the center is inside the box is the diamond ring. And this diamond ring is the Bhakti Yoga, that precious it is. Yeah. So we have 6 chapters here, like I said. Chapter 7, Krishna really takes us with a journey, like we would see when we started chapter 1 and 2, we had so many questions in mind, right? When he is explaining about all the yoga ladder. And as we came to chapter 6, now we are pretty much clear on the concepts when it comes to what is Jnana Yoga, what is Nishkam Karma Yoga, and what is Ashtanga Yoga. Right? And the same journey is here in the next 6 chapters. He takes us, really gradually, up to the highest point of devotion service. So chapter 7 will learn, which will start today. It is titled as Knowledge of the Absolute. Chapter 8 is how to attain Krishna. Chapter 9 is the most confidential knowledge. Like chapter 4, we learned about the transcendental knowledge, right? Chapter 9 is, the center of Gita, so the most confidential knowledge. And the opulence of the absolute, Krishna's opulences are explained in 10th chapter. Chapter 11 is the, Virat Swarup, which he shows to Arjuna, the universal form. It talks about that. And then chapter 12 is also very, I think it's the shortest chapter, in Gita. It just has 20 verses, but it purely talks about devotional service. And that is where, we will learn how, in the end, we get the feel that how merciful is Krishna. Yeah. So we will start our journey today with the 7th chapter, which is knowledge of the absolute. Now, before I start the chapter, I would like to check, does any of you know we keep saying that Krishna is the absolute truth, right? What does the word absolute means? What do we mean by that?
Absolute.
Go ahead.
Yeah, absolute means here pure.
Right, okay.
Pure, original, true, and facts, faith. I mean, all these things related.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you're almost there. So thank you, Jyoti Mataji. So there are 2 kinds of truth, absolute truth and relative truth. Okay. Absolute truth, what does it mean? The truth which is true, like Jyoti Mataji said, it's true at all times, place, situation, people, everything. At all times, it remains the same. It's because it's original, right? So absolute truth is the truth which is true no matter, in all the circumstances, in all times and place, situation, everything. Okay. Whereas relative truth is something that can change. Okay, relatively. Okay. Now, maybe I can correlate this with an example that I'll give you two statements. Maybe the first statement is, say, sun gives us light and heat. Okay. And the other statement is, the name of the city is, or the name of this city is Bangalore, or rather Bengaluru now, right? So, which one is the absolute truth in these two?
First statement is absolute.
Yes, the first statement. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So the sun gives out light and heat. This is gonna be, truth, no matter what the time is, what the situation is, place. It is not going to change, right? But whereas the city name, we know that Bangalore was called as Bangalore before, right? The city, it can change relatively, right? Now, that's the meaning of absolute truth. Yeah. So we need to know clearly, when we are naming something, when we are using some terminology, if it is clear, it makes us easy to follow, the next steps. Yeah. So with that said, we'll move on. Chapter 7, it's relatively short, compared to the chapters we have done so far. It has 30 verses, and we will be covering the first 3 sections. So for convenience, we have divided it into 5 sections, in which we will be covering 3 sections today. Yeah. So the way it flows is, initially Krishna starts glorifying this knowledge about himself. Yeah. The glory of overall this knowledge about Lord Krishna. Yeah, we understand from the verses of that. Yeah. And then we learn, knowledge of Krishna's energies. Yeah. And then, once we have that knowledge, then surrendering unto Krishna. Yeah. And then this chapter covers, it touches also on demigod worship, which we have been, I think, on and off been speaking about it, right? So demigod worship and impersonalism. Yeah. And 26 to 30, which are the last verses, that will talk to us about how our delusion can be converted into devotion. Yeah. Now, we have been learning so far that Krishna is great, right? He's beyond this material modes of nature. He's powerful. He's supreme, right? Now, now we will see, when we are stepping into Bhakti Yoga, that why is Krishna great? Why do we keep, saying that? We will realize that because we as humans, we have a tendency that, say, for example, if we know a famous personality, yeah, be it anybody, let's pick up one famous personality in our mind. Yeah? If we know this personality by name, yeah, we know that yes, he's great. Yeah, he has really done great things, and that will have a kind of impact on us, right? But imagine if we get an opportunity to know this person more in depth, right? If we deep dive and start knowing about the aspects of this person, why it makes him great, then it will have a deeper impact on us. It will impact to us in the core, right? Because as we know more about this person, as what are the criteria which really make him that level, then we get inspired, right? Then we get moved. And then our faith develops on that person, that yes, that's why he's so great, right? So that's why these are the baseline for us, to understand why do we keep saying Krishna is great, because now Krishna is going to explain that. So Krishna starts by explaining, the glories of this knowledge about him, and then further he expands to talk about his different energies, and how these energies, how every atom has Krishna in it. Okay, so this understanding as how great Krishna is will eventually lead us, what that when we know this knowledge, then this understanding helps us to surrender to Krishna. And once we surrender, we can convert our illusion, which is the delusion, into devotion. Okay, so that's the flow of this chapter towards the end. Okay, so with that said, we'll start with the first section, which talks about the glories of the knowledge. And this was the verse we also recited, right? And we also went through quite a bit on this verse. This is the last verse of 6th chapter. Yoginamapi sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo matah. Right? Where Krishna confirms, right? He says that the topmost yogi is the bhakti yogi, right? That's the conclusion of 6th chapter, which actually was titled as Ashtanga Yoga. But we see how nicely Krishna brings to the last shloka, by the last shloka of Ashtanga Yoga chapter, he highlights that Bhakti Yoga is the topmost, right? Now, first 6 chapters of Bhagavad-Gita, we learned that Krishna spoke mainly about Nishkam Karma Yoga, right? Which is, what is Nishkam Karma Yoga? Can somebody tell me?
Without expecting fruitive results.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, without expecting anything.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So, Nishkam Karma Yoga is performing action with renunciation in the fruits of action, right? Now, now Krishna is slowly changing his gears. He is moving into devotion in action. Yes, you have to perform the action. Yes, there was a renunciation in the fruit of action until now. But now he is stepping into, we should also have the devotion component in our actions. So not only detaching ourselves from the fruits of action, but rather every action of ours should be filled with bhakti, which is devotion to Krishna. Yeah. Now this verse of 6th chapter, which concludes, right, the last verse, it actually forms the basis, the seed verse for all the next 6 chapters, which is Bhakti Yoga. Because Krishna highlighted here Bhakti Yoga is the top. So this is the seed verse, which forms the basis for the next 6 chapters. Right? Now, most important in this shloka, Krishna highlighted verse. Can somebody say what is the most important factor Krishna says in this that a devotee should have? You can read the translation. It's on the screen. What is the factor which we should have?
Great faith.
Exactly. Thank you, Trupti Mataji. Welcome back. Faith, right? That is the factor, and that's the basis, right? So the most important point here in this verse is devotee should have a faith, and with that faith, he is doing what? Shraddhavan bhajate yoma. And we spoke a lot about bhajate because Prabhupada has highlighted this word so beautifully in the purport, right? Bhajate. What is bhajate? Something which is transcendental service, engaged in devotional service, with faith, right? We come across people who say, I have a lot of faith in God, I have this, I have that. But when it comes to performing services, it's not with that much of, energy it comes out, right? Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, I have my kids to do this. I have a kid. I have my, maybe work, office work. I have 10 things on my hand, right? So bhajate is transcendental loving service. So with that faith, rendering the transcendental loving service to Krishna. Yeah. And how does faith come? The main component, one of the main components for faith to come is from knowledge. If you have knowledge about something, right? Like we saw the example. If we know a great personality, once we get more knowledge about that personality, there develops the faith, right? Without knowledge, we will not be able to understand Krishna's position. And there will be always, on and off in our mind, that, oh, is it really there? Is he really, supports, is he always around really the devotees? There are so many questions we come as we go in the down wave of our life, right? So for us to have that steady faith, faith comes from knowledge. That is one thing we should know. And in chapter 7, it is elaborated on how and what to think about Krishna, the knowledge about Krishna. Okay. So with that said, we will start with the first verse for today, which is, which highlights the importance of the first step in the 9 devotional service practice, which we learned last time. Yeah. So hearing reveals knowledge about Krishna. This is a very important verse. Now, 7th chapter has quite a lot of important verses. So maybe here on we may also have, so that you are at least, you get the opportunity to recite. We may also give, at least 2 verses every week instead of 1 verse. Yeah. And I would request you all, like you are all doing, please send your recording. Yeah. Because that I can see that is also building the faith, the confidence, right, in reading the verses as well now. Right. So this shlok goes like Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Asakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjam Mad Ashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gnayasi Tachrunu. O Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pratha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Right? Now, we have highlighted the important pieces here, right, in different font. Now, my asakta manapartham. Yeah? Asakta means engaged, right? What do you have to engage? Manaha, that is mind, right? So, yogam yunjam mad ashraya, right? Under full consciousness of me. Ashamshayam samagram ma, ashamshayam, yeah? No doubt, right? Yatha gnachasi tat shrunu. This word shrunu is very important. Shrunu means to hear. Now hear. Krishna is telling Arjuna. Yeah? Now this is linked to the last verse, Yogi Nam Api Sarvesha, right? The best of all yogis is bhakti. Previous verse, he says that, who person who always abides in me, in full consciousness, hears me. Yeah. So he's highlighting the same here. Hear me attentively. Right? Now, why Krishna is saying this to Arjuna? Is it that Arjuna was not hearing him properly? He was getting, now we have heard so many shlokas, so he is losing that. No, that's not the case, right? Krishna is highlighting because so that we can grab our attention that he is entering the cream of Bhakti Yoga shlokas. Yeah. So we should attend really with high attention, these shlokas which we are going to do. That's what he's trying to say, because everything now covers Bhakti Yoga, right? So, which is knowledge about the absolute truth. Yeah. And because it is going to stay the same, absolute truth across no matter what situation is, that's why it is something which is permanent, right? So here we see the importance of the first step in the 9 devotional service. Maybe I can check. Do any one of you remember the 9 devotional service steps we did? At least few?
Hearing first.
Hearing, yes.
Hearing, chanting,
Chanting, yes.
and performing pujas,
Yes, yeah. Worshipping, that is. Mhm.
and
Eating prasadam.
Yes, that is.
singing,
Uh, sorry, Hari Krishna ji, you were saying?
singing songs,
Yes, praying, I think that's what you mean.
praying, yeah,
Yeah.
praying.
Yeah, we spoke about praying last time. Uh-huh. So, yes. Anything else?
And performing duty with for Krishna,
Mm-hmm.
like
Serving.
Yeah, worshipping, praying,
Mm-hmm.
and also executing orders, friendship, surrender.
Very good. Yeah, those were the only one left now. Right.
Yeah, great.
Great, great. I'm happy you remember it. So these were the 9, devotional services which is in Bhagavatam, right? The Srimad Bhagavatam highlights, Prahlad Maharaj in 7th canto highlights a verse, right? it starts with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, right? Then we have the other 9. So it all starts with Shravanam. Shravanam means hearing. Yeah. So hearing is the key. And if we all look back to our spiritual journey, it all starts from hearing. May it be someone else playing something, maybe someone else speaking something, maybe someone you are reading loudly, maybe you are seeing something. It all starts with hearing. It's the first step for us to get in there. That's why we say, hear the right things. Otherwise, instead of going into the right direction, we'll go into the wrong direction, right? So hearing is the key, right? So how should we get this? By hearing, right? But what is the right way to get it? By hearing by someone who has learned from authoritative person. It has to be from authorized sampradaya. Yeah. So you have to hear from a person, from an authoritative person. And also that person should be practicing it. That is one of the key things. It's just not about learning. Bhakti, you will never get it by just learning, by unless and until you don't apply that into your life, practice it yourself, you will not see the transformation for sure. It's not something like a science, like a material subject, which you just read through and yes, things will happen. No, you have to practice it in order to see the difference in your life. That's the key, right? So the Lord therefore is saying to Arjuna, Shrunu means hear from me. And who can be better authority than Krishna? Arjuna is hearing directly from Krishna. He's at that level. So one has to therefore learn Krishna directly from a pure devotee, yeah, not from a non-devotee, yeah? Who are, maybe they have academic qualification, but not the right, checklist which is needed for a pure devotee. Okay, so hearing is the key. That's the bottom line. And this verse, like exact translation of one language into other, it cannot be the same word to word, right? So the way this shloka actually gives us, Krishna is actually giving us the whole crux of bhakti process in this 7.1 verse. That's why it's very important verse. So Shrunu means try to hear. Yatha jnayasi samagram, know me completely. So by hearing, we will know him completely. Okay, and then once we know him completely, all the doubts will be removed. It's a stepwise process. Once all the doubts are removed, we take his shelter, we surrender, right? And once we surrender, we continue our practice and become more steady in our bhakti process. And this results in, because we will be engaged only in doing activities keeping Krishna in consciousness. We will always think about Krishna, right? So Krishna is highlighting here, coming from Ashtanga Yoga chapter to this chapter, even the first shloka of this chapter itself, he's showing how easy Bhakti Yoga process is in comparison to Ashtanga Yoga. Yeah, Ashtanga Yoga, we learned so many requirements, right? They have to do. But Bhakti, it is very simple, and I have something as an example of Prabhupada, which I'll maybe correlate later on. But moving further, these were the 9, right? So Shravanam, Kirtam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, executing orders, friendship, surrender. These are the 9 processes. And hearing is the key. It's like a jump starter. Your car, when it breaks down, you have to have a jump start. Quickly it gets in. So it's the starting point for us. So even when we notice chanting, it includes hearing. So when we chant, we have to hear the words clearly. That's the key. Okay, so with that, we go to the second shloka. Hari Krishna ji, will you be able to read it?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. Jnana and Vijnana about Krishna. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Bhagavad-Gita 7.2. Phenomenal, phenomenal means Krishna's material and spiritual energies. Numinous means Krishna's personality and sweetness.
Mhm.
Krishna describes Jnana in chapter 7 to 8, Vijnana in chapter 9, and both in chapter 10 and 11.
Right. Thank you. So I'll just, what Krishna is saying here. Krishna is talking about two things. If you all remember, we had slightly touched on this before, that there are two factors, jnana and vijnana, and both are different, right? Now, what Krishna is saying, now he's going to declare, to Arjuna in full this knowledge, both jnana and vijnana. Okay, phenomenal is jnana, numinous is vijnana. Okay, and Krishna is clearly saying, this being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Nothing further. This is the key of knowledge. Yeah. So full, when Krishna is saying, I will explain to you in full this knowledge. Full means what? Full knowledge. That means Krishna, that means knowledge about Krishna, Jiva, which is us, and material world. Right? So so these three, knowing this is understanding the correlation, is the full knowledge. Okay. Now, phenomenal, right? What is phenomenal? Jnana. Jnana is theoretical knowledge. Okay. It's the knowledge that we learned, right, before, that we are not this body, we are soul. Also, phenomenal word, our acharyas have said that it refers to Krishna's Aishwarya Jnana, his opulence, his greatness. So phenomenal refers to his Aishwarya. Aishwarya means his opulence, right? And what is his opulence? It consists of material and spiritual energy. Everything. The next shloka will see how he highlights. I think it is 7.4, where he highlights that everything in this world is either, from this energies of his, material and spiritual. And then numinous. Now, numinous, this is vijnana. This is the practical knowledge. Numinous is the practical, not theoretical. Yeah. And that Krishna is a person, he reciprocates. We learned in 4.22, right? What is that? Ye yathamam prapadyante, right? The way, one surrenders, Krishna reciprocates accordingly, right? So Krishna is reciprocal. And this, it talks about his personality, his sweetness, his madhurya jnana. Yeah. His, so phenomenal is also needed for us to understand how great he is, how he is present everywhere. Whereas numinous is also, needed, right? For us to know his sweetness, how merciful he is. Now, I have also, we have highlighted here that jnana, specifically the phenomenon, is explained in chapter 7 and 8. It highlights this part. Yeah. And vijnana is chapter 9. And that's why we say it is the most confidential knowledge, right? That we will see the sweetness part there, right? And both jnana and vijnana are explained in chapter 10 and 11, both of the factors, right? Now, so vijnana is nothing but realized knowledge, right? Like we learned, a person's opulence may strike our heart. Maybe we have a factor of respect as well, knowing their opulence, right? But only knowing this person's sweetness will really make us to have that intense love, right? So vijnana is nothing but realized knowledge. Now we see this is, we can give several such examples, but just highlighting for vijnana, the sweetness of Lord, how he's the supreme, but he's carrying, he performed all his duties and all his roles, right? Carrying the footwears of Nand Maharaj, while Nand Maharaj leaves, he carrying that on his head, and, so sweetly, rendering service to his parents. And the same thing we see with the Gopas, right? We have so many pastimes where we see Krishna's sweetness, where he's feeding food and he's eating, the, what do you say, the same food, himself. So he doesn't, he's not can we even imagine? And that's where Brahmaji got bewildered, right? That how can Supreme Lord, be so simple, sharing food, eating each other's food, how can that be possible? So that's Krishna's sweetness, right? So he can go to any level for his devotees, right? And that's why Krishna, the next shloka, he explains it's not easy for everybody to understand this, knowledge. And this is also one of the important shlokas. Um, quite, highly, you will see that in our first levels of Gita shloka, if you're, we see this books, right? Coming shloka books, this shloka will definitely be there. So it is like a basic starter level. It is important. Right? So rarity of this knowledge, right? It is not easily available. And maybe Jyoti Mataji, will you be able to read?
Yes, Mataji. Rarity of realized knowledge. Manushyana sahesreshu kashishthatiti siddhye yattatam mapi siddhana kaschinama veti tattvata. Out of many thousand among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Bhagavad-Gita 7.3.
Thank you. That was a nice recitation, shloka. So rarity, right? Krishna is clearly saying how out of many thousands of men, only one may endeavor for perfection. And even, who achieves this perfection, hardly one can know his tattva, right? We have seen this tattva before as well, word, right? So hardly one knows him in truth, in reality, right? Now, this is the case more or less in today's Kali Yuga, right? We see it so many times, maybe, in our experiences when it comes to the book distribution or, the Gita course registration, we see, where we will approach hundreds of people, and out of hundreds of people, maybe, few, agree to join the course, and they confirm, and then eventually we end up that only few turn to come face to face and attend it, right, face to face or online. And then out of those few also, some may be steady, continuously, really started doing the practice, right? And then among that also we'll see that few may, who endeavor for perfection, they may take different parts of yoga ladder as well. We have learned different parts of yoga ladder. So even among them, they might take different parts of yoga. Now in them again, they, so that shows how rare this knowledge is to reach to the absolute truth, right? So so different, of course, the other yoga, ladder levels, we know they can also reach to Krishna, but it will take lot of time. And today we will be covering that verse, which we always highlight, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Require, lots and lots of life they may take to reach that level, to go back to Krishna. So we need to understand that, how can we know Krishna? How are we able to know today? Because of the mercy of Prabhupada, right? It is making us so easy. So it can only, we can only know Krishna by mercy of his pure devotees. Only when we come across such realized soul, we'll see that real transformation. So and that's why Krishna is saying, hardly one knows me in truth. Tattva, right? Tattva is his sweetness, his reality, right? It's not easy, to get in there. So in in purport, this was the statement I was referring to in the prior slide. In this shloka purport, Prabhupada is saying that there are quite a lot of mental speculators, non-devotees, that class of people who say bhakti is only for sentimental people, emotional people, and it is very easy. So, and then, karma yoga is something for hard workers because you have to keep doing karma. Ashtanga yoga is something for austere people who can perform penances. And Jnana yoga is for intellectual people, but bhakti yoga is for sentimental people. So Prabhupada says, in the purport, that if bhakti yoga is so easy, then why aren't the other fools taking the why are they taking the tough path? Why are they not taking the easy path if it is so easy? Why are, because we all want easy thing in life, free and easy. These are the two things we need, right? So why don't they take the easy path? And see, we have to understand that bhakti yoga, Krishna has made it very simple, but we cannot take it casually. It is doing bhakti, just doing bhakti in the name of doing anything, not following the rules and regulations, not following the do's and don'ts, and you say that I'm following bhakti, I'm doing bhakti. That is not real bhakti. Everything, even to go to a school, we have to follow rules and regulations, right? We cannot enter the school any time point. You have to go when the clock ticks, when it is the time, otherwise the gates get closed. So we have to follow rules and regulations everywhere, right? So if we don't follow rules and regulations and claim that no, I am doing bhakti, then it is like we are eventually, only thing that can happen is a social disturbance in society, because you are setting the wrong thing eventually. So with that, what are most of the people doing right now in Kali Yuga? We learned this chapter, this shloka from Mahabharata, right? Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha samanane tat pashubhirnaranam dharmo hitesham adhiko visheshaha dharmena hinaha pashubhi samanaha. This shloka in Mahabharata is very direct, very strong. It says, people who are engaged in eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they are no better than animals, right? These four activities are common for both human and animals. The difference between a man is that he can search after God, but an animal cannot. Therefore, a man without that urge for searching after God is no better than an animal. Okay. So there are thousands of such men who are not interested in self-realization today as well, right? And we will see most of the pool percentage in today's world falls with this category, right? Okay, so with that, we'll move to the next section, which talks about Krishna's energies, right? Now, yes, this should be pretty much, we know this from our prior sessions. So 7.4 shloka, he talks about, the elements, right? The material energies. So bhumir aponalo vayuhu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara itiyam me bhinna prakritir ashtadha. So earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Okay. So Krishna is now going to speak about his energies. And we learned this, right? So the first 5 here are the gross elements. Yeah. And the next 3, mind, intelligence, and ego, they are the subtle, right? The first 5 we can, touch, perceive, we can see, right? But the next other 3 are invisible, right? We can't see them, we can't touch, right? So that's why they are subtle, right? So after this, yes, maybe Kavyaji, Mataji, will you be able to read?
Yes, Mataji. Apre mitsvayan itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabhavo ye yad dharyate jagata. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Bhagavad-Gita 7.5.
Thank you. So apart from those 8, which we learned in the last shloka, right? There is something more Krishna is saying. Yeah. That is the superior energy. Can somebody say what Krishna is referring here? Other than those 8, there is another superior energy of mind.
Super soul.
It is the soul.
Soul.
Yes, right. Because so that's his energy. We are talking about his energy, right? So so yeah, so the superior energy mentioned here in this shloka is the soul, right? The first 8 were inferior energy, and we are Krishna's superior energy. Okay. And sometimes we also see the reference, like they also we also see that we are also marginal energy, because we are both spiritual and material, right? Component within ourselves, right? We have a spiritual entity and a material body, so we are marginal. That is also one of the things. So with that, just quickly going through the 2 layers of the body, gross and subtle. Gross is earth, water, fire, air, ether, and subtle is mind, intelligence, and ego. Yeah. So soul is covered by the subtle, the red color here is the subtle body, and the blue is the gross body, right? So the subtle is the closest to the soul, and in that subtle, the false ego layer.
Sorry, subtle is?
Subtle is the closest to our soul, right? And within the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego is the closest, and that's why it's the most difficult to overcome. Okay, and
so the red one is mind,
subtle.
intelligence, false ego, right?
Yes, yeah. And the blue is earth, water, air, fire, ether. And the soul is called as Dehi, and the subtle is Deha. Yeah, we know this, right? So this is the shloka I was referring to, 7.6. Right? So Krishna is, now that he has spoken about his energy, he is clearly stating here that all created beings having their source in these 2 natures, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Well, how much more can clear he get, right? He's clearly saying that everything is coming from him. He's the origin, right? And he's also the dissolution factor, right? Everything we see in cosmic manifestation, it's a combination of both the energies you will see, right? Material and spiritual. For example, us, right? We are a combination as well, right? And we also, like our soul is spiritual and body is material. And every atom we know, we learn that it has super soul in it, right? It has Krishna as Paramatma form. Yeah? And maybe, some questions what we get in our mind is, how about these things like, we are using this system right now to have these class, like laptop. I'm using a headset. We are sitting in our house. So how do we interpret these, right? Because these don't have the, how do we say that these have the spiritual energy? We understand it has material energy, but how does it have spiritual energy? So it's, it can be explained that how can we see such things as a combination of spiritual and material? Because these material energy, for these to happen, they need a spirit to work on it, right? For a laptop to come into picture, they need a spirit to work on it, right? To make it happen, right? A building, where we're sitting, even that needs, it only comes into picture, not just using the bricks and the stones, right? There has to be a spiritual entity which has to work on, right? So, so that's how we see that. That's where Krishna is saying everything, is coming out of this, material and spiritual energies of his. Yeah, everything comes out of it. And the same thing we'll see in due course in 10th chapter. This is a very important verse where Krishna clearly says that he is, again, that he is the source of all the spiritual and material world. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bhudabhava samanvita. Yeah. So he's the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Yeah. Everything emanates from him. Right. And the person who knows this perfectly, engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Okay, we will not go, of course, we'll go more closer into the shloka when we come there. But this is just so that you know, it's even further, Krishna clearly mentions that he is the source. Yeah. Now, I know I'm saying, I said in 7.1, 7.3, now 7.7, another important shloka. So, like I said, when we started, this chapter has quite a lot of important shlokas, yeah, for us to understand, to know Krishna. It's about knowledge, right? So maybe Ramapapa Mataji, will you be able to read this?
Yes, Mataji. Krishna is the maintainer. Krishna is the maintainer and supreme personality. Mataha parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sharvam idam protam shutre manigana iva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. Bhagavad-Gita 7.7.
Thank you. So it's now Krishna is giving us an example to make our small brain understand, because we can only understand from basic examples very well. So he's giving an example of something which we wear, we are fond of wearing, right? So it's about a pearl necklace, right? He's saying, and in any necklaces, what is it which is seen and what is it which is unseen? Maybe let me ask, what is it which is unseen?
The string or thread.
Yes, and that's what Krishna is saying here, right? So the thread is unseen, and it is important for us to understand this, right? Because sometimes people we come across, or we may also be having before a state where we asked, does God exist? Can we see him then? Right? We all must have come across that. So, or someone asking, can we show me God? So and next question comes to our mind is, if God is there, then will I be able to see? Okay, first, is he there or not? Then if he is there, can I see him? Will I be able to see him? And I think some of us already know that Prabhupada, he responded, that for someone who asked this question, can I see God? Will I be able to see him? And Prabhupada said, yes, he said that I can see God. You can also see God, but the thing is, you don't have the right qualification. So you should have the right qualification to see, the right approach, right? Like I was hearing something as an example. For example, say we are driving to some spot and our car has broken down, yeah, and it's not, there's something wrong in it, it's just not working, right? And we take it to the mechanic, right? We are not able to see what is wrong in it, so we take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic, as soon as he starts the car, they can that person can see the problem and also hear the problem, and they can just fix it, right? Because they are able to just get it, right? But the owner of the car, he is the owner of the car, but he cannot see. Because why? Because the mechanic has the right training and knowledge about that piece, right? Similarly, we need to have the right training and knowledge to be able to be qualified to see Krishna. Okay, so to see something beyond our experience, if it is something in that car, for example, it was not something so evident with our material eyes. It's not, something which it was beyond our experience, that what is happening, right? That is where, for Krishna also, it is beyond this material experience, right? We need a qualification for that, right? So thread here, it is what is it? It is thing which is holding the whole beads, the pearls, right? So it is the main principle of that necklace. It's the base, right? And one thing Prabhupada highlights in purport here for this shloka is also, in this verse in particular, it is stressed that the absolute truth is a person, we will see several shlokas, where Krishna highlights Mai, Mam, very clearly that he is a person, not a light or not, So, okay. Now the other shlokas, which we'll do 7.8 to 11, these show us how Krishna is all pervasive. When we say Krishna is in every atom, Krishna is the essence of everything. What does it mean? So Krishna gives several examples how he is present everywhere. He's showing his omnipotency. Omnipotency is, he has that potency, right? He's omnipresent. That means he is present everywhere. Yeah, and omniscient means he knows the past, present, and future, right? So these are the factors which are highlighted. So maybe I will just quickly walk through this. So shloka 8 to 11, it says, Krishna says, I am the taste of water. I am the light of sun and the moon. I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. I am the original fragrance of the earth. I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives. I am the penances of all ascetics. I am original seed of all existence. I am intelligence of the intelligent. I am prowess of all powerful men. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am the sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of Bharata. So Krishna is covering huge, right? This shows how Krishna is all pervasive, by his diverse material and spiritual energies. He's present everywhere, and, for example, water, right? Let's take the first one, our body itself, we know it is made up of around 70 to 80% of water itself, and no matter how much, when we are thirsty, that is the only thing which can quench our thirst. Even the water is not tasty, it does not have any taste, but it's so amazing because Krishna is the taste of water that quenches our thirst versus to anything else, right? Everything we eat, it needs water. To cook, we need water. To grow, we need water. Because everything needs water. It is the basis of life, right? Now, same way, sun, he's saying the light of the sun. Without the light of the sun, we cannot even imagine our life, right? Even the food we are dependent on, everything is because of the light, right? So the sunlight and the moonlight, and we know that moonlight is very important, for the vegetables to grow, right? So, and the Om syllable, ability, he also says, we are so proud of our intelligence, ability at times. Oh, I hit this on my own and all of that. So Krishna is saying here, he's the ability in a person. He's the intelligence in the intelligent, right? We have that thing to question what is right or wrong, that ability is given by Krishna. So why not use it, channelize it, that what is our ultimate goal? Let's work towards our ultimate goal, right? So heat also, I think, I'll not go through all, but heat also, as basic as even our body's digestive system, I was hearing that we need some heat to digest the food, right? So Krishna has set up our system like that because he is all pervasive, he's everywhere, Actually, by all this, what is Krishna doing? He's giving us very practical ways to see him as part of everything. When we see a beautiful flower, right, like in rose, we that should make us remind Krishna that how the seeds, they actually, quite a lot of times when we do gardening or something, and if you're naive to gardening like I am, all the seeds look the same, and when you plant those, you will see how beautifully each one of them are coming with a different, color of the flower, fruit, amazing, it's like, and just by the soil, same soil, right? So, so we have to, that is the way of perceiving the Supreme, so with that, just 7.12 now. Krishna is beyond the modes. We have been hearing this, right? And now we will see the shloka which talks about it, yeah, in next couple of verses. So 7.12 verse, Krishna is saying, know that all states of being, be they for goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I'm not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Yeah. So Krishna says that he is in everything, but he is independent. He is not influenced by the modes, right? And we will learn more, in the 9th chapter, where Krishna is saying about how material modes of nature are within his control, and we living entities are in turn in this material world controlled by material nature. So material nature is under Krishna's control, and we are under, material nature. So Krishna has this, actually these material nature, to me, it's like, they are like gatekeepers. They only, they are servants of Krishna, right? The material nature is not the material nature is servant of Krishna, and it will only allow eligible, qualified people to enter the kingdom of Krishna. That's their job. That's why they will test us, right? That's material nature's job. So, okay, so overall, all this nature, as how pervasive he is, and he's not, he's like the supreme controller, right? It should help us or lead us to surrender, to take Krishna's shelter. Yeah, and of course, that will be covered next, which is the last section for today, surrendering unto Lord Krishna. Now, when we learned in the prior section that Krishna is everywhere, then the question comes to mind that why most of the people still don't know Krishna, or why most of the people still don't follow Krishna. So Krishna gives a reason for that. What is the reason? Because the souls are deluded by the modes of material nature. Okay, so Reshma Mataji, will you be able to read 7.30?
Yes, Mataji. Jivas deluded by modes, deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. The whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Bhagavad-Gita 7.13. Forgetfulness of Krishna leads to fear.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, why people don't surrender? Krishna is giving the reason, because they are deluded by the modes of nature, right? Modes of nature are explained in detail. There is one full chapter, 14th chapter, which will give us more insight on this. But I think the base here for us, to start with, is important to understand that these modes of nature bind us, as ropes in this material world. They are binding us, and we learned this, that we can compare this like, say we are in a jail and we are chained, right? Some people are chained by gold chain, some by silver, and some by iron, right? Now, be it any of three, what is the bottom line here? Be it gold, silver, or iron, we are chained, right? We are binded. Similarly, these three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Gold, silver, or this thing, iron, irrespective of anything we are in. At the end of the day, these modes, we are binded by these, right? And it is under the influence of these modes, which makes us forget Krishna, right? And that is the main problem. Hence, we are not able to surrender. So originally, we all know that we were with him, right? But because we wanted to be independent, we wanted to enjoy independently, that desire, that's why Krishna has given us this material world. He's so merciful still, even though we wanted to be independent, still he has given us a platform where we can perform yajna and go back to him. So we will face challenges, right, from material world. Now, when we all know now that when Krishna is saying that, well, this is the reason why you don't surrender, then what is the solution for it? Now, so far, I think we all know that Krishna gives the, makes us understand the problem, and at the same time, he also gives the solution, hand in hand, no waiting, right? So the next shloka, yes, this is the solution. That's what Krishna says. Surrender onto Krishna, right? And this is the shloka we always talk about, Daivihi Esha Gunamay, right? This is that the material nature is under the control, right, of Krishna. So the shloka is Daivihi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durutyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. By those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Solution is surrendering to Krishna, right? Now, like he acknowledged that controlling mind is difficult, he's also, acknowledging this. It's difficult to overcome. And when Krishna is saying difficult, it is really, really difficult, right? But how can we still overcome this? By surrendering, right? Prapadyante, right? Now, we may get the question in mind that why is Krishna calling this energy as divine energy? When we know that it is this material nature which is binding us so badly, right? It is acting actually for us as a villain, right? So why is Krishna calling divine energy, right? For something which is binding us. Now, because like I said in the prior verse, the material nature is doing her service to Krishna as a pure devotee. It's the service of material nature to act as that gatekeeper, filter, and in fact, it's not this, if we think, it's not this material nature actually which is only binding us. It's also our desires, right? It's mainly our desires to lord over things, to have things under control, to be independent. And because she is the gatekeeper, it is her responsibility, right? If she is performing service to Krishna, she wants it to be 100%, So she has to ensure that it's her responsibility to allow the right people to get through, right? Now, when we have this options, right? I was listening to one of the lectures where they gave an example of an MCQ question paper, right? We have this multiple choice question papers. So when we get an MCQ question paper, what is the purpose? The purpose of the teacher is to give us options, is not to misdirect us. But the purpose of the teacher is to make sure that when these options are given, in order to help us to be sure so that we can make the right choices. It's not to misdirect. It's for us to make the right choices for us. Right? And same way is with Maya. She, this material nature, she gives us options, but it lies with us as what we choose. So both material and spiritual, it's like, it's at the end, it's our choice, right? It's our choice whether today, if we are not feeling okay, whether to pick up the beats and continue, or whether to drop it. And each one of us might be different. Some people might pick up beats and do more when they are in their downside of the day, when they are disturbed. But some people might not pick it up at all. So it really depends on us as what we choose, right? So it's like, and that's why, we need to take the shelter of pure devotees, who are practicing it themselves, because they are the best people who can give us the solution, right? Because if a man who is bound with his hand and feet, for example, can he free himself? No. And he has people around him who are also bound, with bound with their hand and feet. Can they free him? No. So there has to be some person who is not bounded. Only that person can be the rescuer for him, right? And therefore, only Krishna and his bona fide representatives, in the form of our spiritual masters, they can, and pure devotee, so they can only release us from this condition. So therefore, surrender is the only means by which we can get out of the clutches of Maya. Yeah. So we see, many people, even when Krishna was there in Dwapar Yuga, we see many people did not accept Krishna as God. Right? We saw Duryodhana, we saw Shishupal, because they were bewildered by this material needs. Right? But there were also others who just surrendered to Krishna. Right? So that's the difference. It's with us. Even if Krishna is with us, we may not be able to see him because we are under this influence. That's the thing. Yeah? Okay. Yeah, we have just given, the process of surrender here. This is actually from Sanatan Goswami's book, Hari Bhakti Vilas, how to surrender, right? The first two, are really important, where it says, Anukulasya sankalpaha, pratikulasya varjanam. So Anukulasya sankalpa is simply accept, the religious principles that are favorable to devotional service. So do what will progress us to in our devotional service. Accept those. And avoid what? Reject anything which is unfavorable to our devotional service. Yeah? And that will get in our confidence for Krishna. Yeah, confidence of Krishna's protection in all circumstances. Yeah, which will slowly, that confidence will be, turning into a firm faith, right? That Krishna is the only maintainer, right? And then comes the stage of surrender. Once we have full faith, firm faith, surrender, and then how we should be, in the end, we have to think lowly, and humility is the key, right? We have to stay humble. Right? So when we have problems, what do we learn now? Don't get influenced by the material nature, right? Choose the right option and make the problem show that, do not tell Krishna how big your problem is. Rather tell your problem how big Krishna is, and that will be, surrender, right? We should have that faith. Yeah? Now, we are stepping into the last piece, more or less, where there are so many different kind of people, right? Yoga ladder also we saw. Why there are so many, things? Because like Vedas also, because there are so many different kind of people, they have to be catered, right? Different people needs, based on their needs, they have to be catered. There are so many different kind of people in this world. Do all of them surrender is the question, Krishna answers no. And that is the next shloka. Not everybody surrender. And who are those who surrender and who don't? So Krishna is giving two kinds of people. One who surrender, and the second who do not. First, he talks about 4 types of people who do not surrender. Okay. So the shloka, Namam dushkritino mudaha prapadyante naradhamaha maya parharta jnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. Okay. So those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto you. Yeah. Now, mudaha. Mudaha is what? This grossly foolish people. We'll go this in a bit more, what each of these class mean. There are 4 class of people here. Okay. Now, these are those. Let's, Trupti Mataji, will you be able to read?
Yes, Mataji. The mudhas are those who are grossly foolish, like hardworking beasts of burden. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. Naradhamas, or the lowest of mankind, willfully neglect the prime duty of the human being. The Maya the Maya Prabhata, Janana, or those person whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of illusory material energy, deride the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. Asuram Bhavam Ashritha, as those of demonic principles whose very simple of life is to decry the personality of Godhead, cannot surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you. So we see number of people, four kind of people, right, who do not surrender. Now, Mudha, who are these? These are grossly foolish, is the word. Prabhupada's, I think, words here, there are quite a lot when we read Bhagavad-Gita where, it's really, in the purpose, when we read, it's really strong. It makes our, I think, the command over English language in itself, that's the beauty of it. I think as I started reading Bhagavad-Gita's purpose, I must say that my English really, the command, you get better hold of it because some words which are used by Prabhupada are so beautiful. And I was hearing an example where I think one of the Japa talks itself, one of the Prabhujis mentioned that Prabhupada was, he was in his home in Vrindavan, and the place where he used to live, in Vrindavan, he used to type, right? And one day, and he used to live on the first floor. There was somebody in the ground floor, and they used to always hear Prabhupada's typing noise because the old typewriters were pretty loud. There were a couple of days in between where for 2 whole days, the person living below couldn't hear any noise coming from Prabhupada's room. And he thought, what happened? And when he approached Prabhupada, and he got to know when Prabhupada said that, I'm actually searching for one right word for the translation. For 2 days, he was, he wanted to use the right word. And that's why he stopped typing until he really gets the right relative word. So that's the power of these words, that they were put a lot of efforts from, I think Prabhupada really gave us the cream of giving the right words in the right context for us. And we need to, and that's why they are powerful. And we see so many lives transformed when we see this Bhagavad Gita being read. It's the purity flows, right? So sorry, coming back to the topics, and Buddhas, foolish, right? Grossly foolish. Now these are the kind of people who, though they have the opportunity to take time for spirituality, but still they come out saying they don't have time for Krishna. They don't have time for Gita, for spirituality, and they are working hard day and night to have, basically Prabhupada is saying that they work like ass. That's the word used here, and foolish because they think by working so much hard day and night, stretching hours, so much, they are working so much hard, which, they can understand from Gita itself that how they can stop this cycle. By working hard, they think they will get everything, but that's not the case. It's only by Gita you understand the meaning of life, and your acceptance level increases. In the purport, they have given the example of hog, right? Hog loves to eat stool. Even if you offer hog to have gulab jamun in front of the stool, they will say no. They don't have the taste for gulab jamun only. They will eat, stool itself is their gulab jamun. That's the thing, right? So even if gulab jamun is offered, they are not interested. So that kind of people are these, they are foolish, even though they have the opportunity, it's not, naradhamas now. These are in the body of humans, but they kind of behave like animals. lowest of mankind. Yeah, they don't have sense to understand the spiritual matters. They are not inclined to do spiritualistic activities. Rather, they are inclined to do more animalistic activities. Yeah, and then Maya, Parhartha, Jnana. Yeah, this one, this class of people, like you can see, Jnanaha, it's mentioned, right? These class of people, they are very learned, but their knowledge is under Maya, illusion. Though they know a lot, they don't apply it in their life. It's like they can give good advice, but they cannot overcome their own bad habits. Okay, so these people cannot practice while even they know, right? So that's why they cannot make progress at all in spiritual life. Because spiritual life is just not learning, it's applying as well, right? So last is Asuras. Now these are the kind of class of people who are born with a mindset of making other people's life hellish, basically Asura mentality, right? They're very envious, jealous, like Duryodhana was. He always spent time in creating plans how to degrade Pandavas, unnecessarily causing havocs there, and he was just interested to create troubles for them, right? That's the kind of this Asura Bhavanashrita. Yeah? Now, when Krishna is talking about these 4 types of people who cannot surrender, he is also giving 4 kind of people who can surrender. Okay. Now, who are these? So we will just maybe, so it is Chaturvidha Bhajante Mam Janaha Sukrutino Arjuna Artho Jignasur Artharthi Jnani Cha Bharatashrabha. So, O best among the Bharatas, the 4 kind of pious men begin to render devotional service unto the distressed desirer of wealth, inquisitive, and who is searching for knowledge. 4 types of people. Yeah. Now, distressed are who? The Artho, right? Now, these people are the ones who have problems in life. Say they are suffering from health problem, finance problem, mind is not peaceful, stressful. They think only God can help. Only God can help. So they come to God, to come out of these sufferings. And good example for this we can use is Gajendra, right? We know Gajendra. He was in the elephants. I don't know if any of you know, but we are short of time, so I'll not go there. But yeah, I think Gajendra, because he was distressed, he remembered the Lord and he could go back to Krishna, in the last point of it. So then comes the class of people, Artharthi, right? Artharthi are the desires of wealth. They will go to temple, they will worship with a mentality that if I worship God, I'll get good salary, promotion, good job, etc. Everything. Like Dhruva, right? Dhruva, initially, his aim was to get bigger kingdom than his father, right? So with a wealth aspect, desire. Jignasur. Now, these are kind of Jignasi, the name itself says, it's like curious people, right? Who are curious to know about everything. Maybe a mobile phone, you pick up a mobile phone and they want to know, they are curious to know how this works. They see something new, they are curious to work what's behind this. So similarly, spiritual matters also, they want to know about God. Yeah. And Jnanis are the last, right? Now, Jnanis they have a lot of spiritual background from their prior lives. They have firm faith that God exists and they worship God as the matter of their duty. They clearly know, Jnanis clearly know they are not this body, they are soul, but they have the faith that God exists and they worship with an attitude of a duty. So they are not self-realized. Yeah. So all these kind of bhaktas, Krishna is saying, please remember, all of them can surrender. That's what Krishna is highlighting. Yeah, all of these category. Yeah, no matter where we fall. So just moving further. So these are the four types of Sukritinas. So the next shloka 7.17. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. Krishna is saying of the 4 Sukritinas. Yeah, who is the best? Again, the same, engage in pure devotional service. Right? for I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. And Krishna highlights in 18th shloka that all these 4 classes of people, they are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. Yeah, they are magnanimous. But he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Yeah, being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and the most perfect goal. Right? Yeah. Now Krishna calls all as magnanimous. As one day they will all gradually elevate to pure devotional service, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, we will then move to the last shloka for today. This is the last slide. Trupti Mataji, will you be able to read this? Yes, Mataji, I'll try.
Bahunam janmanamante jnanam vanam prapaddhate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Bhagavad-Gita 7.19. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So this is the cream of today's, and we have referred the shloka so many times, right? When it comes to other parts of yoga ladder, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Bahunam means many. Janmanam means repeated cycle of birth and death, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante, right? One Jnanavan, one who is full knowledge of me. Mam Prapadyante. Mam again, Krishna, right? Prapadyante is surrender. Vasudevah Sarvamiti. This person, when we say, full in knowledge, is clear. Vasudevam Sarvam Iti. Krishna is all. Yeah. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Durlabha is very rare to see such a Mahatma. Right? So after many births, Krishna, Arjuna, see, we spoke about those 4 Sukritinas, right? Who can surrender. Now it comes to our mind that is there anybody above the Jnani? And Krishna is saying here, it's very, Krishna says, yes, his pure devotee who knows Vasudevam Sarvam Iti. Krishna is all, Krishna is Sarvam Iti. Yeah. So that person, even though he's rare, but he is, that's the crux, he is the ultimate. So yeah, after many births and cycles, eventually person reaches that stage where they are clear. And once they reach that stage, then we get the ticket to go back to border, right? We are in there. So, okay, with that said, we will conclude for today.